Welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. So, the channel where we improve your sound. Let's have a look at how we can remove the background noise so you can enjoy your music recordings even more. So, what I'm about to address here is basically going to make you save a lot of money. You're not going to be fighting your system so much. You're not going to be, throwing window out of the, throwing money out of the window, flushing it down the toilet, whatever you say. These are things that directly and indirectly affect your sound, so let's just quickly have a look at it. Here you can see the cars that come into the garage here. It could be disturbing your sound. Also, if it's like a motorcycle, if you're living close to a street, a lot of my friends that live close to a street, especially in the city where they've got these thin windows, that can really help. Knowing that can really help your sound if you can somehow soundproof that in a way, or just kind of, if you have the possibility, moving away from, like, let's just say this room here to this room here, which is more soundproof, let's just say that, or some other room. It can help you distance yourself from that noise. So just be aware of that. And in the middle here, you can see we have this multi-purpose room where we have the hi-fi, living room, and kitchen almost acting as one room. So you might have 3 family members here, like 2 here going partly over to this room, and then you're listening to music over here, and it's kind of going to be noisy. It's going to destroy what's ever going on in your little listening space over here. Not that it's little, it's pretty big in this room, but you know what I mean. So you could actually make a temporary door here. I'm also going to release a video about these temporary walls that you can move in the room. So look out for that. This is another solution for that. But I'm just saying there could be some kind of a dishwashing machine, people blending food, whatever, dry tumbler that's also over here. Or it could also be something indirect, which is all of this stuff here is on the same power circuit as your system. That could also indirectly be doing something to your sound. So just be aware of all of these things in the background, because we might not notice them because we've become so used to them being there in the background, but it robs you from that really intimate, deep experience. Kind of pulls you mentally in and out of the sound, and you kind of have to turn up the volume a bit, fighting that other noise that's here, over there, whatever. People flushing the toilet. Let's just say this is a toilet and you're a bed and breakfast leasing type of guy through what's it called, Airbnb or whatever it's called, and someone's staying here and they're using the toilet over here, and it's close to your system, and you can hear it through the wall because it's some kind of a thin drywall with not a proper insulation in between. That stuff actually happened to me in another place where I lived, where the guests that we had, they were just noisy, and it wasn't because that they were rude or anything. It's just it was a thin wooden door where all the noise would go through the door and underneath it, and it was so annoying. And just be aware that if that is a thing that exists, it could also just be chirpy what's it called, birds. You could have some kind of a tree out here and they're just chip 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 chip, birds constantly. That could also, in the long run, perhaps irritate you a bit. Maybe if the patio door, whatever door it is, was open to that. So just be aware of that. Yeah, I mentioned that part. And also be aware of this other scenario here where you could have a shared room, this room here, and it's shared with the kitchen, this other area here going down the hallway. This could be an open area where there isn't, it's shut off, door here or there, whatever. So if it's all open, it makes it more difficult keeping the sound waves in check so that the pressure is maintained, so the volume is stable, and so you can access all the detail, so everything's kind of all over the place. And because of that, yeah, when you get into situations like this, you will normally gravitate towards equipment that is a bit more reserved, a bit more safe, and you'll probably end up playing songs that are more safe. You'll probably play something that's more jazzy, bluesy, safe, and you won't go into these sort of esoteric recordings as much because they're more challenging. They're more difficult to control, and ultimately you will be missing out on a lot of stuff. So if it's possible, just kind of keeping all of these things here on your radar, long run, you will save money. You will save money. And you can easily elevate your system, let's just say half a level, just by shutting some doors, removing some glass surfaces, and doing a lot of other small things like I've said on my channel. And it's important just to know that these things exist, that there are people in the background perhaps talking with a neighbor behind the curtain, and you can still hear it. So yeah, I'm just saying, be aware that could spoil the music a bit for you. And if you just fix those problems, you most likely won't have to compensate when you do that. And this is a great example. This classic setup in a normal apartment. This could be Copenhagen, Madrid, New York, whatever. This is a classic example of what a lot of people are doing in the cities, where this could be the hi-fi area here. We have a speaker here, and you're listening to it over here, but it's shared with the kitchen. So people in the kitchen will be noisy, stuff going on in the kitchen. There's no wall separating these things here, so and all the sound waves here will basically be sucked sideways, so that all the mass, the weight, the bass kind of will go over here, meaning that you'll have to turn it up, but because you're turning it up, it's getting a bit harsh because of the windows, which really excite the music, and glass surfaces here and there. It's not ideal. And what happens is that, yes, you can probably turn the curtains over to the side, and it will help partly with the sound, but usually it also mutes the sound in some parts of the frequency, so you don't get a full reactive sound from top to bottom, bottom to top. There are going to be some holes where it puts extra emphasis and kind of sucks out other things in the frequency spectrum. So just be aware that you might want to have blinders just to keep that a bit more in check. And I know that people that have flats usually want to have a smallish over there, beautiful, more designer-like speaker. Yeah, you can do that. Just know that when you do that, you usually have to use a bit more money on the solution compared to if you were to choose some used, let's just say, big ugly speakers. I'm just throwing a random example out there. Snell, PMC, whatever brand. They probably will give you more for the sound, simply because they're bigger, and of course you have to weigh stuff up with the efficiency of the speaker, the ohm impedance variable together with that, and of course the whole system, how it matches. But I'm just saying, you can save a bit of money just by going typically with a bigger speaker, simply because there's more surface area and there's more mass in the cabinet, so you don't have to have a speaker that's constantly going 50 to 100% of what it can do, constantly straining itself. It most likely will just be going, I don't know, 15, 20, 25% of what it can do, simply because there's just more mass there. So just be aware of that obstacle. Also, again, the thin wooden floor, it's going to usually make the sound more harsh. So just be aware of that. Okay, that's a big obstacle. You might want to have some proper isolation feet. So be aware of that. I made a video about isolation feet. Don't miss out on that. Go in and find that video. And if I just go over to another problem here, that could be a hallway here. Let's just say this is your apartment, and this is the hallway to other apartments. If this door is closed, many times you can hear people on the other side, and it could irritate you, them going in and out of their apartments. Just be aware of that. Again, the windows on the right, if they're thin, perhaps change them if you can. There could be a lot of traffic noise getting in there. You might want to get rid of that problem if that's possible. If you have naked walls like here, not ideal. I would suggest just putting some cheap soft paintings, not with glass surfaces, but that usually acts as a sort of hi-fi absorber, bass trap perhaps solution that is usually a lot more cheaper. You can get a solution like that for only like a tenth of a price of a deflector or bass trap or whatever they're called. That's worth looking into. And here we have some circa, not ideal, glass surface, not ideal. So ideally I wouldn't use a sound system in this room, but you can still work around it by having some kind of a temporary door, curtain, or whatever. Curtain, I would say not ideal. I would rather have a slightly harder surface than that, so it doesn't imprint too much of its own character on the sound. But I'm just saying, this, to start with, this could be a horrible room, but it could actually sound a lot better with time, just so you know. So just be aware of that. Just be aware that that is still possible. And and this other room down here, if you have some kind of a dry tumbler machine thing going on next to your room, and there's only a drywall between this room here and where you're listening to music, it could perhaps be a bit of an obstacle that you have to get over somehow. Perhaps you could change rooms, insulate the wall, whatever. Also, if there's children in the house and they're constantly running back and forward, that could also somehow be a barrier you have to look at. And of course, the classical noisy neighbor scenario. You could have a neighbor that's really loud and rude. Sometimes just moving flat, to the one that's all the way at the top can solve that problem. Sometimes you have to solve it in another way, where you only get home at a certain time, where they're done with their stuff, and then you perhaps don't necessarily have your listening position right there, but at the other part of the room. That could possibly solve that problem. Also, bear in mind that there are times a day where I would say are more usual, where people use the power grid. So if you know that most of your neighbors generally go to bed at 10 p.m., then you could usually gain a tiny bit of not just black noise in the background because they're all asleep, but the power grid will usually be more responsive, so that the power you're pulling and putting back into the power grid is there's just less resistance. So generally you'll feel that the sound is more pleasant, more full, more about the music. So it's worth noting that down. I've done that with myself. I know that it's around 10:45 p.m. where the electricity is best. So I just make sure that I listen to music from around that time to 3 or 4 in the morning. That's like ideal where I live, and I think that probably goes for like most countries. I'm just guessing. So it's worth noting that down. But let's just say that you're screwed, you can't do all of these things. At least I have a solution for you here where you can just use the 300B speaker amplifier, turn it into a speaker amplifier and a headphone amp. That should only cost like $200 doing that, by some kind of a local audio technician that you have. And yeah, you just put those headphones on. That's now your sound system, and it doesn't mean that you have to miss out on anything. You know, you can just buy something like a 300B amp, which is Deckware or Audio Note kits, for like $1,000, you know, and then you pay like $200 to get that converted. Then it's a speaker amplifier and a headphone amplifier at the same time. You just flip a switch, you know. Then you have both worlds. So when you then leave your apartment, perhaps one day, then you can have both worlds, where you have a speaker system connected to the amplifier and your headphone. I think it's just a great option for a lot of people, so you don't have to feel that you're missing out in the hi-fi world. So yeah, if you want more good content, I suggest that you go to my channel and you sort the videos by the oldest or newest. I'd suggest the oldest, and then you can suddenly not just access 200 videos but around 400 videos at this current time, and then just go through them all. You know, you can't take for granted that this channel will be here forever. I'm not getting any support by any brands or any financial backing or anyone helping me. You know, it's just me making everybody kind of tune into the good sound, and that's how you do it. You know, filter those videos, then you can access the rest of what I've got and just look through them all, even though they don't look very fancy and spring out compared to others. Have a look at them all. You know, they're gonna help you with your sound. You're gonna save a lot of money throughout the years, and more importantly, you're going to be able to own more gear. You're going to, simply because you're going to be able to access stuff, and it is all going to make sense. It's all going to click for you, so that you feel that finally, you know, finally I'm getting what I've paid for, you know, whatever brand X. Finally, you know, this matters. Finally, it's about the music. And yeah, that's then that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a nice day. Bye.